Hi, folks. Okay, so I've been reminded that I didn't do a single simple video for my omelets, and it's Saturday morning. It's prep time. I'm prepping my omelets for the week, so I'm going to be prepping enough omelets to cover my household for the week. We usually eat about maybe 3 or 4 of them in the morning, along with some grilled tomatoes, some vegan sliced meat that I make as well. So I just want to show you how I package them. I put them in the fridge and then I put them in the freezer as well. This is what they will end up looking like. If you use a big skillet, then obviously they'll be bigger. But for me, I use a small skillet that has um, four. That's got 4 holes in it, like for fried egg, and that's how I do them, and it ends up really, really convenient, and it adds a really great component to our breakfast, and most importantly, I can prep them in advance, so breakfast can be quicker on the day. So I actually use tofu to do this, as well as chickpea flour. Those are the two main ingredients. You also need corn flour to help it hold together, and then whatever seasonings and flavorings that you want. So I have here my chickpea flour. I've got my tofu. I've got my corn flour and numerous seasonings. Turmeric helps it with the yellowing. If you want an eggy taste, which I personally quite like, in my omelette, it just brings a different flavor to what you normally get as a vegan. Use black salt. The sulfur in it makes it smell and taste like egg. Depending on the brand that you get, I mean, for me, getting the rock version and then kind of like, blending it down or crushing it down is good. If you get like the ground version, when you sniff it, it may not smell like egg, but just put a tiny bit, and I mean a tiny bit, like a couple of grains on your tongue, and you'll immediately get that sensation. Your brain will say, this is egg. Anyway, that's if you want that kind of eggy flavor. Of course, we're going to use things like black pepper, some parsley. I think I've still got some of that, and we're going to use fresh onion, which this is just one onion cut up that I put in the fridge, and that's pretty much it. Some garlic powder, some mushroom powder for the flavoring, the umami flavor. You can put a little bit of salt as well. I've run out of pink salt, so I'm going to be using like basic table salt. And I'm getting my delivery tomorrow, so I'll have everything else. But you can put other things like oregano. You can put roasted peppers, all kinds of stuff in there. It's up to you, whatever you want to eat. Anyway, let's get started. This is the size of the tofu that I get. Every tofu is different. Whether you're using soft tofu or hard tofu, to be honest with you, all blends, right? So this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be blending it up. So this one here, I'm going to be using about 10 or 12 pieces per batch. I've got a big amount here, as you can see, and I'm actually going to be doing this because I want to make about 50 of the omelets. And you'll see the yield as I go along, okay? So let's get started. So 1, 2, 3. I usually do about 10 pieces. 4, 5, 6, 7. You can use milk, vegan milk, if you want. I'm not going to. 8, 9. That'll do. These ones are bigger than the ones I usually use, so I'm going to get a much bigger yield from this than I usually get. All right, let's get rid of this. All right, now, next part we want to do is get some water in here so that we can blend this down. If you're only doing a small amount, you put maybe 4 pieces, 5 pieces, 3, 4, 5 pieces, and then you can put your chickpea flour, your corn flour, your nutritional yeast for the flavor, the nice little mild cheesy flavor. Miso paste, you can put all kinds of stuff in here. In fact, actually, I think I will put some miso paste in here for a cheesy omelette type taste. But yeah, so you can put all of that stuff in one blender. In my case, because I'm doing such a big batch, I'm gonna not do that. And then I'm gonna keep some of the chickpea flour, some of the liquid of what I'm blending separate inside of here. Anyway, I'll show you as I'm going along. I will say one important thing. When you do this recipe, it is very, very flexible. You can do kind of more water, more tofu, etc. But between your chickpea flour and your corn flour, you have to balance it so it doesn't become pasty. You'll know what I mean when you see it. There should be kind of like holes in your mixture, right? If it comes out and it's kind of like too pasty, there's too much of the chickpea flour or the corn flour. So you should add a little bit more of the tofu and more water to get it to be kind of like floppy and lifty and stuff. So this is 3 cups of water so far. Normally I don't measure, but I'm doing it so that you can see what I'm working with. And let's go ahead and blend this up. And then I'm going to have it in a put this amount in a bowl, and then I'm going to blend the rest and kind of like do bits and bobs with those. So let's make this easy. Okay, so you can see I've blended up all of that now. And I'm going to pour out half, and then I'm going to show you how to do this in a small batch. If you're doing it in a big batch, then you would do what I'm doing, then blend the rest and kind of mix it. But let's imagine we've only done like 5 pieces, okay? I'm going to show you small batch version first. So we've already blended down. Imagine this is 5 pieces of the tofu. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to put some onions in there, and that helps to kind of give it a good flavor. It does something really interesting to the texture that I like as well. It kind of makes it that it's not just smooth tofu. Anyway, so this is just some chopped onion. You don't have to chop it finely like this. It's just, we get our stuff all chopped up for us. Anyway, so this is some onions. And then now what we're going to do is going to go in with the corn flour. And you're going to want to put about, this is not an actual tablespoon, let me get an actual tablespoon. Right, this is actual tablespoon. Okay, so let's get 4 tablespoons. And if we need to adapt, we can. Okay, so that's 4 tablespoons of that. All right. Now let's go in with our nutritional yeast. I'm going to go in with like 3 tablespoons of that. I love that cheesy flavor. I'm going to go in with some of the miso paste. This is white miso paste. The flavor is, it's got like a mild cheesiness to it. And mixed with the nutritional yeast, it really amps up a cheesy flavor. So put 1 teaspoon in there, or a little bit more if you fancy. Definitely not in the realm of tablespoons unless you're doing a big batch. All right, so we also need turmeric for the color. So we're going to go ahead and get 1 teaspoon of turmeric. This is a half a teaspoon here. It's not going to taste like curry or anything like that because it's not curry powder, it's just turmeric. So it's just going to add to the color that you're looking for. Okay, so we're going to go in with some mushroom powder, of which I am woefully running out of. If you don't have mushroom powder, don't worry about it. Just use some salt. I'm going to put in 1 teaspoon. And remember, this is the quantities that I would do because this is a smaller batch. You don't want to put anything like paprika in because it will change the color to being a bit more red, unless you don't mind that. And then we're going to go in with 1 tablespoon of garlic powder. If you don't want to use garlic powder, you can actually use 1 or 2 bulbs of garlic and blend it out as well. And let's get herbaceous. I'm going to put some parsley in there. Just a dash. You don't need a lot. Something for color offering. And then we're going to also put some black pepper, and this is how you really get the flavor that you're looking for. You know, vegan food is often accused of being bland, and that's because most people make it bland. Salt and pepper is not enough to make your food taste good. This is just a little shake of yellow mustard powder. So you can get that anywhere really. These are just my labels that I have in my kitchen. All right, so that is pretty much it that you need before you put in your chickpea flour. And for your chickpea flour, we're going to go for just under a well, we're going to go for a heat half cup, because this is only a small amount of the omelette mixture. And we do need to have a little bit more water on standby, so I'm just going to grab that. Also, now is a good time to put your pan on. I have 2 of those pans, so I can cook 8 at a time. But now is a good time to put your pans on so that they can start to warm on low. And one ingredient I forgot, which is really essential, is oil. If not, it will come out kind of really dry and floppy. If you're on an oil-free diet, that's fine. It is what it is. But if you're not, then you definitely need some oil. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3 tablespoons of oil in here, because it really does add to the unctuous flavor and the texture. And like I said before, if you want, you can use vegan milk instead of water. For my purposes, water works just fine. So that's what I'm going to use. And the only reason I mentioned about having the additional water, which this is about half a cup, is just because you've got flour on top and it's going to go everywhere. So just give it a little drizzle, 1/4 cup. And then now let's give it a blend. And we're going to stop that while it's blending to squish all the stuff down at the edges. You can see here at the edge you've got some of the powder, but we want to get rid of that. And never panic if you've got too much water in here, and I'll explain how you'll know that. You can always just add more tofu or more of your chickpea flour. And that's it. It doesn't take much. All right, so now I'm going to show you the texture. Let's get a spoon. All right, so here you can see the texture is kind of like globby a little bit. This will make an okay omelette. And give your mixture a slight taste. Don't eat it, but give it a little taste to make sure that the flavor is okay. It's not going to taste as great as it will once you cook it, but you should be able to taste that it tastes seasoned. That's what you're after. So here, you can see here there's some holes in there. It doesn't look too pasty. I mean, for me, I would add 1 more block of tofu to that. But even that will give you a good result. So let's go ahead and go over to the stove. I'm going to prove to you, I'm not like one of them channels that says everything is great and then doesn't show you the process. So I'm going straight from here, straight to the pan. All right, so bear with me. I'm going to be doing this with one hand. And I use coconut oil for my oil. It tastes pretty good. It's quite neutral. But use whatever you've got. Preferably not sunflower oil or vegetable oil. Something more natural with less processing. All right, so this is kind of hot already. I'm going to show you this. Now, I personally would add 1 more of the omelette in, 1 more of the tofu in here, just to give it a bit more of a fluffy look, but I want to show you what happens with different consistencies. Do not overfill them. You want to go to half max. It doesn't need to be full because it kind of gets a little harder to cook that way. All right, so we're going to see those ones, and then now what I'm going to do is add one more tofu to this, and then you can see if you think there's a difference. I think I'll do two. I'll add 2 more pieces of tofu here. And if you're making it and you're like, man, this tastes so good, I want to add more, you can just keep adding the ingredients. Try to look for texture. That's what I'm getting at. So just gonna go ahead. Okay, so that's mixed in. Need a little dollop of water just to make it a little thinner. All right, so now we're going to cook this one in the other pan so you can see it. Here, it feels a little heavier, like there's a bit more substance to it, which I like. I'm going to go ahead and take this over, and then we can cook it in the second pan so you can see. Alright, these are going well already. They are not on a high heat. You do not want to cook this on a high heat because you want it to cook through. But you can see here, they're not ready to turn yet, but they are moving, which is good. So the seal is good. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's got a nice brownness to the side. So I'm just going to give that a couple of seconds more, and then I'll be able to flip it. When you want to flip it is when the inside is beginning to set, which you can see this is starting to set already. And it doesn't kind of start flopping out. That's when you want to flip. And see the lovely texture here. It's soft. It's not hard and pasty. If it's hard and pasty, you forgot the oil. So turn your fire back down on this because you don't need a lot of heat to finish off the other side. And if you ever get it where the bottom is like too brown, you know that your fire was too high. This is a really lovely golden color. And you see here, there's like loads of divots and everything. It's not just one flat, straight texture. It's like a lot of, you know, like when you do an egg, you know, like there's lots of divots when you do scrambled egg or whatever. And by the way, you can use this exact same recipe for scrambled egg. Don't do it in here, do it in a skillet and do it that way. If you're going to do this with like a big omelette tray, you might need like maybe 1 teaspoon more of the corn flour. And then what you do is you cook it really well on one side, and then you can add your stuff into it when it starts to set and then flip that part over. But be really gentle with your heat. Anyway, this is really good so far. So I'm turning that all the way down. We're going to look over here. And fire is pretty low, so it's not yet ready. Just going to turn it to a medium high. And you see here, it's not like moving around the pot like the other one was. So it just needs a few more moments. So that's because mainly the heat was concentrated on the middle. As for this one now, it's moving around beautifully, which means that they're ready on the other side. And they don't need to be like 100% like brown, dark, or whatever on the other side, because when you warm them up, you can warm them up in a skillet. I personally either use the air fryer or microwave. If you want, you can steam them to warm them up. Whatever you want, you can do. It only takes like 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. So you've got a lovely breakfast in 1.5 minutes. If you've got a bread roll or like a burger bun or whatever, you can put one piece of that, put a piece of vegan bacon. You've got a bacon and egg muffin right there. It's really, really easy. So what I'm going to do is get myself a container, and all I'm doing now is just taking that and just flipping them over. That's it. and I'll just leave those to cool. And as they cool, they will get even more floppy, right? But these ones will be floppier because they've got more of the thingy in it. But these are ready to eat basically. And if you give them like 5 minutes after this cooking, then they're going to be even nicer. These ones I can tell are ready to flip now. I can tell because the middle bit is set a lot more. Put on the light, see if it helps. Yeah, you see the middle here is set more. Just get under. Look, if you don't have a silicone spatula in your kitchen, you're missing out. Life is harder than it needs to be. Make sure you get a silicone spatula. I have like 10 of them. There you go. And as you can see, there's loads of divots in here. And it will have like a fluffier taste than the other one before because it has more tofu in it. And it will kind of be a bit more scrambled eggy type texture. So this is pretty much it. That's how you go ahead and do it. If you're going to do big batches, you basically just amp up the amount of seasonings that you're putting in, taste it as you go along. You will put more of the like the cornstarch, more of the chickpea flour. Just don't be too heavy-handed on the chickpea flour. The chickpea flour is really great because it will give you you know, the extra protein in addition to what you get from the tofu. So now here I want to show you, can you see the difference? This one is floppier than that. This one's, it literally looks more eggy. Can you see that? And that's the difference between if you have less or more tofu. And they're both going to be just as delicious, don't get me wrong. So use what you can. In some places, tofu is quite expensive. Where I live, it isn't. It's extremely inexpensive. So just use what you can get and just make the most of it. But just don't be too heavy-handed on the chickpea flour and don't be too heavy-handed on the corn flour, the cornstarch. But you do need the cornstarch to help it set. One last thing I would say is when we're putting that first layer on here, if you want to put some toppings on, this would be a good time to do it. Oh, I forgot my oil. So what you do is you would kind of like get it up here and then get like, you know, like some cooked broccoli, not raw, cooked broccoli, or, you know, like a piece of like a plantain, or like what I do is I put scallions on top. And then you end up with like really nice designs of food on top, but you've got to put it in while it's wet before it's set. And then once it, you know, and push it down so that when you turn it over, it will be kind of flat. And that will also give you some variety. So if you've got some kids and you want some variety in how their food looks, this is a really great way of how to make the omelettes a little bit more exciting for kids as well, or for yourself, whatever. I mean, you know, we're all grown kids really, aren't we? But anyway, I really hope that you've enjoyed this and the demonstration is helpful to you. I hope you enjoy this with your family, and I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. Remember to save this to your playlist. I don't delete any of my videos, so make sure you save it and you can always come back and watch it and, you know, use all the tips and have a great breakfast or lunch or dinner or midnight snack, whatever suits your fancy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.